And we are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into episode number 28 of season 3, first off, before I get into the like and subscribe, the housekeeping things, I just want to say me and Ryan are very happy to be back. As young adults in life, things get chaotic and we took a brief hiatus, but we are back and we are super excited to be bringing you guys Detroit Pistons content on a regular basis again. We've missed you guys. Hopefully you missed us. So that leads me into that you can expect weekly updates and posts from here on out. So make sure to like and subscribe. And if you haven't yet, follow us on Instagram. There's a link below in the video description to our Instagram. Make sure to go follow us because we post clips weekly, daily, and also debate topics, hot takes, stuff like that. So make sure to go follow us on Instagram because it's a great follow. And if you want to stay in the loop with everything going on with the Detroit Pistons, it's a great follow. Ryan, last time we talked about Jaden Ivey and him possibly renegotiating his contract. And so we are going to be talking about Jaden Ivey's return, and his contract is yet still to be signed. And in years previous, we've been doing this podcast for a while. We used to focus and hone in on one topic. Now we've kind of liked doing multiple topics. So things we're going to be covering today is Cade at the Lions game on Thursday versus the Dallas Cowboys, Jaden Ivey's return, Pistons getting national recognition finally after all these years, and season sound off / shout outs of talking about positives the Pistons are doing and players that we particularly enjoy watching and their play leading to great success. So we will wrap up the episode with our season sound off / shout outs. But Ryan, last time we talked, it was the off season and the season was just starting with training camp, and it was kind of interesting because there was a lot of things in doubt with the Detroit Pistons. Okay, are they going to be able to follow up this season with a hot start, or missing some players like Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr.? Like, those absence of guys going to really hurt this team? And Ryan, as we've seen these first basically 22 games, the Pistons are 17-5 and in first place in the Eastern Conference standings, 2 games above the New York Knicks, who are in second place. The Pistons are at a great spot, Ryan. And so just talk to us a little bit about what we've missed so far this season and kind of the things to be excited about, because I feel like we should really relish in this.
Yeah, so the big one for me, outside of how Cade is playing, because he's playing out of this world,
Oh,
and
yeah.
honestly, throw Jalen Duren in that same mix. I'm going and looking at the depth we have off the bench, because you
Totally.
have Karis LeVert, you have Duncan Robinson, you have all these guys that we brought in that you had big question marks on. It's more like,
Mhm.
okay, what are they going to add that Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., etc., already had for us? And obviously,
Right.
the big takeaway is that, oh, yeah, okay, we lost some shooting, right? So obviously, Tim Hardaway Jr. can shoot pretty high at a pretty high rate from 3. Malik Beasley obviously is one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. Well,
Big
he's
time, yeah.
currently out of the league right now, but still, the point remains. But then you look at Karis LeVert. Okay, historically speaking, at Michigan, he could shoot it. He could
Mhm.
shoot it in the pros. But the difference is he's looking to slash more. He's looking to play defense more. He's looking to
Mhm.
do every little thing that he possibly can to stay on the floor. And then you look at what Duncan Robinson has done for the not just in college but in the NBA. He's been known as a 3-point shooter, and what he was at Michigan is completely different than what he was with the Miami Heat, because his 3-point shot elevated even at a higher rate than it was at the college level. But then you add in the fact that he can facilitate more often than not. He can look to drive. He can look to not just do catch and shoot. It's more off the dribble than anything now. And so that extra layer that he added to his game and the extra layer that Karis LeVert has added to their games just entirely for their career, You add that experience, that high level of basketball experience to this group that were already starting to take the jump last year, with Beasley, with Tim Hardaway Jr. And you look at what this squad has now. You added two younger guys than what you left, what you missed out on with Beasley and Hardaway, and then everybody else just took a step up in their games. And so you're looking at a team where last year it's like, okay, those vet pieces really were statement pieces as to why the Pistons had the success that they had last year. But this year, it's not that. The vets are bringing in this experience that is just comparatively to the rest of the team, just so prominent that they're taking this huge jump because of those vets being added into the mix. That's not the case. They're actually taking the jump themselves, and then you trickle in the vets, and it's just like everybody is on the same page. They work their tails off. And even the vets that they added in, they're not old. They're young still. So you added in younger vets that can work cohesively with younger, now more experienced Pistons. And I think where they're at right now versus where they were at last year is actually an even better spot, because you're not relying on Duncan Robinson to just go in and shoot threes. You're relying on him to be more than what he has been with the Miami Heat. You're expecting him more to be than Beasley, because he can do more than Beasley. And then Tim Hardaway Jr., Karis LeVert, because I think those two comparisons alone of Beasley and Robinson, and then Tim Hardaway Jr. and Karis LeVert, like those are actually decent comparisons on their abilities. And I just think Karis LeVert added another level than what Tim Hardaway Jr. could do. And then vice versa, I think Robinson added a whole extra layer than what even Beasley could do at times. So I think the additions that we made this offseason, which were big question marks at the time, have really panned out. And we're starting to see the genius behind Trajan Langdon, but then also the genius behind JB Bickerstaff, because he knows how to coach these guys.
Well, the one thing that's nice about a Duncan Robinson is the consistency. There's not a huge drop off from any given game, whether on the East Coast or on the West Coast. He just is always playing his same brand of basketball, doesn't really waver from that. And for a young, still relatively young Detroit Pistons team, it is very important for a guy like Duncan Robinson to come in, show these young guys what a pro's pro is like, and just perform on every given night. And I think that's really appreciated, especially by the Pistons fans. So let's talk about some more relevant topics. We're talking about, what's happened the past season, great role players like Duncan Robinson, Karis LeVert. But just this past Thursday, Cade was at the Lions game at historic Ford Field, and I was actually kind of happy to see Cade at a Lions game. I was kind of surprised it hasn't happened yet in his career. Like, why did it take so long for him to go to a Lions game? They're great environments, and Cade loves competitive, sports and as a viewer. And so it was great to see him at the Lions game, but it didn't quite go as I suspected it. I usually love Cade's takes on things. He's very introspective, very wise, but he gets on national television and says the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl. Now, obviously, the Lions beat the Cowboys very, very well and soundly. I'm not personally a Lions fan, but Ryan, as a Lions fan, how does this make you feel? Speak for the Lions fan base.
So to me, when I saw that, I'm like, oh, Cade's at the game. But then I'm sitting there thinking to myself, wait a minute. He's a Cowboys fan. He's from Texas. And I'm like, this is only going to go so well. And of course, he's sitting there going like, you know what? Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl. But I'm sitting there going like, no, siree, that is not the case, because the Lions just absolutely demolished the. Well, okay, it wasn't that bad of a beatdown, but it was a very controlled game. It was bold of him to say that. Let's just put it that way. National TV, Thursday Night Football. You're having a historic run so far to start the season off in Detroit. Everyone in Detroit loves you. And yet you're sitting there going and saying that the Cowboys are not only going to the Super Bowl, but they're by far one of the best teams in the league. And I'm sitting there going like, wait a minute. You're saying this in Detroit right now, where everybody in Detroit, not alone just Detroit, but Michigan, the state as a whole, are not big fans of Texas, of any Texas team rather. So the fact that you're saying that when everybody loves you, you are lucky that everyone loves you, because otherwise you would be getting trash talked right now up the wazoo. So I was sitting there going like, okay, Cade, that was bold. But I mean, we knew what the end result was going to be in that game. And obviously the Lions got the win because they're the better team. Their record does not speak to the level at all of a caliber team that they actually are. So I just thought, yeah, Cade, what are you doing right now? Like, just support the Lions in this one. Just be like, yeah, Detroit's on top, and just leave it at that. But instead, you had to say that the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl.
He's very lucky that the Pistons are playing so well right now, because winning kind of excuses anything. I think a lot of fans would probably agree on that. But if I'm Cade and I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm at least walking into Ford Field for that one night. I'm putting on my Lions jersey. I'm going to go on national television. I'm going to say it's Detroit till I die. And if you have to do it for one night in a whole year, just do it, because that's what the fans want. And I don't know. I'm just kind of surprised Cade wouldn't play that role of like, okay, hometown guy now, go Detroit. I just thought it was kind of interesting. And I know not a lot of, Lions fans have the platform to kind of speak out on the situation. So I want to make sure that Ryan had his moment. Let's talk a little bit and break down Ivy's return from his long acquainted injury. And Ryan, I wanted to bring this up because as I'm watching Jaden Ivey in his first 7 games with the Detroit Pistons and over roughly a year and some change, I'm a little worried. Not necessarily because of his statistics, which haven't been great. Right now, he's averaging 8 points, 2 rebounds on 41% shooting in 7 games. I'm more worried because he seems a step slow. And we see many times guys come back from a difficult injury like he did and be perfectly fine. But then there's those other cases where they seem a little bit slower. Their jumping just isn't quite as high. And I know it's still a little bit early on Ivy's return. But I'm just a little worried. Ryan, where's your head at as far as his play so far and the eye test of speed and athleticism?
Yeah, so that first game that he actually got into, I believe it was against Milwaukee,
Yep.
on the road. To me, I'm like, oh, Ivy's playing. I was not expecting this.
Yeah.
But then I'm watching how he's moving on the floor. And to me, from an eye test standpoint, I'm sitting there going like, oh, he does not look like the player he was last year or the player
I
he has
totally
been.
agree.
But then I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, but outside of his movement, his size is not the same either, because he's definitely bulked up.
Hmm.
He so that caught my eye too. So it's like he's been in the gym, maybe not doing as much running as what we were hoping. But also, I will throw this out there: any traumatic injury like he experienced, any
Hmm.
type of those kind of injuries, when you come in after being out for pretty much a whole year,
Yeah.
you're obviously going to be in the mindset of like testing yourself. Like, can I
Yep.
actually do this? If I
Right.
plant, am I going down or am I standing up? And
Hmm.
so it's completely a mind game for him or any player of that nature when you get or receive that type of injury, as traumatic as that was. Because if you think about that game against Orlando, that was actually a very traumatic play that happened, because
Definitely.
nobody was expecting him to break his leg essentially.
Oh,
But
yeah.
obviously, that was a very aggressive play. I believe it was Cole Anthony at the time. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm sitting there going like, dude, that was intentional. That was not like it was you were letting him go. That was intentional. Um,
Yeah.
but to the point being, like, he's probably in the mindset of not necessarily full-heartedly believing in himself right now. So the last game there against happens to be the Bucks again. He had 15 points, which is fantastic actually.
Hmm.
Um, Coming off the first couple nights, he was starting to get his feet under him again, pun intended. And now to get 15 in the last game, That's not bad. The fact that he was
Yeah.
the third highest scorer and you're
Yep.
7 games back, like that's pretty darn good. So I'll take that. But his movement just it's you're right. He's just a little bit slower right now than what he has been. And that caught my eye very at the out of anything initially was his movement was slower. But as the game progressed against the Bucks, in which he had 15 most recently, it seemed like his movement was starting to come back a little bit. It seemed to me like his inside his head, he was going like, okay, I can compete out here. So I think it's just more of one of those battles that you kind of have to see the full landscape rather than the short, small sample size to really put a perspective on it. Because I think the 15 is proving like, okay, he still can compete, but maybe it's going to be a little bit different than what he once was.
Hmm.
But like his 3-point shot is there now. Like that's not a question for me. He
Right.
was in the wing catching and shooting all day. So to me, from his shooting standpoint, I have no concern whatsoever. He actually improved on that out of anything. But I think slowly working up the fact of just being out there on the floor in practice, out of practice and shoot around in the game, just getting those movements back to where they were. I think it's going to be a slow battle to get to that point. So I'm not necessarily extremely concerned with him, but I mean, it is a little concerning based off of where he was last year, very early on, and how explosive he was, or how explosive he has been, to see the player that we've seen in 7 games and how his movements are just a step behind, not even just a step, probably a couple steps behind of what it once was last year and majority of his career now. And so to me, that little bit there is concerning, but it is shot. It's not concerning to me at all.
I have a gut feeling the Pistons organization didn't necessarily cue in the public about how his recovery was progressing. If we remember correctly, Ryan, when we went to Detroit back in March to watch the Pistons play up against the Kings, we thought that Jaden Ivey was going to make a return. It was the fourth to last game of the season. Okay, season wraps up. They ease into the New York Knicks series. We say, okay, are we going to see a Jaden Ivey return? It is suspected to happen, and then it never happens. And then the season starts, and we think, oh, a healthy Jaden Ivey is going to start that game one, but yet he misses around 10 games of the first start of the season. I just feel like they slow rolled it a little bit because they weren't necessarily being truthful with the public about his injury and how it was progressing. But then when you look at it from the organization and the quotes that are coming from Trajan Langdon and JB Bickerstaff, just JB just said on November 29th after a win against the Heat, quote, tonight was his night. He's only going to continue to get better, end quote. So obviously I feel like they think the injury and being a step slow is kind of in the rear view mirror. They don't seem to be that worried about it, but I don't know. And other Pistons fans can also sound off on this in the comments below. We'd love to know what you have to say. If you are also seeing a bit of a slow step from Jaden Ivey, or if you think that's just simply him getting used to the speed of the NBA again, that easily could be it too. So sound off in the comments. Ryan, I wanted to mention just briefly about how the Pistons are getting national recognition. I always pay pretty close attention with the news revolving around the Detroit Pistons, what media groups are talking about them, what articles are coming out, what writers are speaking about them. And Ryan, when we started this podcast, obviously the Pistons were in the doldrums of losing, and it was kind of a dark time. And when I used to try to come up with topic ideas, I would go and look at the news articles for that day. And sometimes you would see 5 days ago at the top of the Pistons news, meaning no one had written about the Pistons for 5 days, just not much going on. And then it would usually be M Live or Detroit News, writing about them. Now you look up Detroit Pistons, click on the news uh, banner. It's US Today, New York Times, Yahoo Sports, Sports Illustrated, and more talking about our beloved Detroit Pistons. And as a Pistons fan, Pistons consumer, I love it because this is what we've been wanting for so many years, anxiously waiting for the Pistons to be relevant again in the NBA. Also, if you look at the NBA's Instagram, ESPN Instagram, the Pistons are up and down those Instagram pages, and that is just great to see, especially me and you, Ryan, being longtime Pistons fans. For example, I was looking at the news banner today around the Detroit Pistons. A U.S. Today article was speculating Giannis to the Detroit Pistons. Obviously, that if rumors start to grow and grow, we'll have to talk about it here on the podcast. But I don't see it being very possible. But it's just the fact that these national media groups are talking and speculating about the Pistons. It's just finally feels like the Pistons are getting the respect they deserve. Ryan, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I always hated not getting the attention
Yeah.
because obviously, not that I'm selfish or anything, but the Pistons are not a bad franchise. But for
No.
some odd reason, the last couple of years or so, it's been pushed that the Pistons are a bad franchise because they're not relevant in the media. Why? Because they're not pushing it. But now, because we're finally getting the recognition, now it's getting pushed, and the narrative is slightly changed a little bit from, oh, it's a bum franchise to, oh, the Pistons are actually doing decent.
Mm,
Um, so to me, I finally can appreciate it because I'm
yeah.
tired of all the bum franchise comments because it's like that's not true at all. They're still in the tippity top echelon of the most championships in NBA history for teams. Yes, it's only three, but the fact is they have three more than a lot of teams do.
Mhm.
So I just want to throw it out there. We're not a bum franchise. We just haven't had a lot of success. Why? Because you have the Stan Van Gundy's of the world who recently came out and said that, oh, it was a mistake to draft Stanley Johnson over Devin
Yeah.
Booker. I kick myself every day. Like I intentionally kick myself. I'm like, well, now you say it. At that time,
Right.
you're going like, oh, this is the next prospect that's going to be a stud. No, he was not going to be a stud. Everybody knew Devin Booker was going to be a stud because they knew who he was.
And it's
Um,
10 years too late at this point.
yes, extremely late. And then the fact is, the guy, I think it was Mark Spears brought up like, hey, what about the next pick with Luke Kennard? And he's like, well, I missed on that one too. I'm like, well, no dip, Sherlock, you missed on that one too. It's pretty obvious. That gets me heated because I do not like the man. Um,
We have to put no dip Sherlock on a t-shirt. I haven't heard that one since middle school. I love it.
it's been a while. We're old now. Um,
Yeah, I like it.
but no, when you have the Stan Van Gundys of the world, of course we're not going to have success and we're going to be out of the media for a long time because when you draft terribly and then you, not to mention it's Detroit, of course you're not going to get any free agents coming because it's Detroit. If it was Florida and Miami, of course you're going to get players because not only do you have nice weather, but you have no state taxes. Like, of course you're going to get these guys.
Yeah.
But Michigan, it's cold. It's not Florida. And then it's Detroit. And I love Detroit. Everybody in Michigan loves Detroit. But it's like comparatively from Detroit to Miami or Detroit, New York,
Mhm.
everybody's going to go New York or Miami over Detroit any day. It's just the market size. That's really all it is. Um, and then you throw in the weather, of course, because the weather is not great. Because who likes snow and who likes the cold? Not me. I live in the wrong place. But I do appreciate the national media, just the recognition that we're getting right now. I do appreciate it because it's nice to just go through my feed. And even if I go and look at the comments on Instagram, it's not just going to be bashing the entire time. They're actually going to be positive.
Yeah.
And comparatively to the last couple of years, it's been negative. So I'm pleased that we're finally getting the recognition we deserve. However, with that being said, there's a couple people within the media that I really don't like. And I really don't want them talking about the Pistons, even if it gives us attention. Like Stephen A. Smith. Like he's a good person, but like he doesn't know ball. He really doesn't. He knows what he wants to know, but he doesn't know all the facts. So people like that, I could care less about them talking about the Pistons in the media
Yeah.
because it's whatever with them. But I do appreciate how anywhere you go on social media, you will always see the Pistons now on every feed, and I can appreciate that.
I don't feel like a guy like Stephen A. Smith is really sitting down and watching ball. Like I just don't get that vibe with listening to him. I just hear yelling. I don't hear a guy that like knows ball by any means. But anyway, let's get to the segment where we do our season sound off slash player shout outs. We haven't had time to hop on the podcast yet this season just to give some of these Pistons high praise, and now it's our time to do so. And Ryan, I wanted to start off with giving my shout out to Dennis Jenkins. I thoroughly enjoy watching this man play basketball. He plays it the right way. He kind of has this old school playing style where, in a way, is defensive mindset first, but yet makes the right passes and can finish around the rim at ease. And if he gets his opportunities and the defense step back at him on him, he'll take that 3-point shot and knock it down. I've really grown to appreciate him, and it gives Trajan Langdon some tough decisions to make because now he has to kind of decide with what to do with Marcus Sasser. Unfortunately, during training camp, Marcus Sasser got hurt and has kind of found himself on the G League as he's recovering. But I've thoroughly enjoyed Dennis Jenkins. Ryan, what's a player that you'd like to shout out?
B-ball Paul. Paul Reed has been
Good
awesome.
one.
Last year he came in and you didn't know what you were going to get out of him. You knew what he was with Philly, but you didn't know if you were going to get that same player. And early on, it didn't seem like we got that same player. But then the playoffs roll around, and dude just went up a whole nother level. And then in the offseason, I'm going like, are we going to bring him back? Because he really wasn't that great. But in the playoffs, he did come up clutch. And then Langdon brings him back, and I'm sitting there going like, okay, this might be something. But it's just a 1-year deal. So I'm like, okay, he might just be a trading piece. But the way he's stepped in when Stu has been out or when JD's been out or just whenever like JB just needs an extra hand, he has stepped up time and time again. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. Like you go to the game against Milwaukee recently, Stu gets ejected, which I'm just going to throw out was like, what are you doing? That officiating was terrible. Because you had, if you go back to the play that happened in which it caused Stu to raise a fist, like, yeah, that's going to get you in trouble. But if you go back to the play that happened, Bobby Portis literally clawed his face out. Like, that's just a normal common foul. No, that's intentional. Like, that is an intentional foul. That's the definition of an intentional foul. And yet, or even just a flagrant foul of that matter. And so the fact that Stu barely raises a fist and gets tossed like that, I'm like, come on, people. But no, the way B-ball Paul just walked in, like he hadn't played the whole game, like he really didn't play the whole game. And he comes in as a reserve with those crucial minutes. He kept the game close. Obviously, we go on to lose the game, but he kept that game close all the way through and was making tough shots when it mattered most. And Cade was feeding him. It wasn't like Cade couldn't look for his own shot. He just knew, okay, I can trust him. He's going to hit that shot. So my shout out is B-ball Paul because he has been lighting it up this year.
Yeah, I love that shout out. He's been really fun to watch, and there is that offensive ability around the rim, but then also on any given night he can give you a couple blocks, make some big stops for the Detroit Pistons. So yeah, he is a lot of fun to watch, and obviously everyone knows Cade is playing out of his mind. We love Cade. It's not that we don't want to talk about him, but there are just certain players that are standing out, and everyone kind of expects Cade to play well. So I just kind of wanted to mention that. I'd love to give a shout out to JB Bickerstaff. I think he's been a great leader for this Detroit Pistons team, a sound of reason for these young guys. So just want to say that. And then also, when the season had started, when I was talking to some fellow Pistons fans, talking to you, Ryan, I said my hot take for the season was that Jalen Duren was going to be an all-star this year. And after seeing Jalen Duren play these first 22, 23 games, him being an all-star this year is no longer a hot take. He is controlling the paint, offensive side and defensive side. He's making the right passes out of the pick and roll situations with the second unit, with the first unit. It doesn't matter. He controls the game. There's been very few centers this year where I felt like he lost the matchup. I'm trying to even think of a specific game where he lost the matchup. He's been playing so well and has been a player of consistency in the paint, when guarding the paint and when scoring in the paint. And he's also got this offensive repertoire in the paint that he has slowly developed with step backs, with fadeaways, with whatever he's got to do to score. Jalen Duren has found a way to make it happen, and I've been just so happy with his play. Ryan, in the last 3 minutes here, any thoughts on Jalen Duren and his play so far this season?
One of my favorite things, obviously, our trips are fantastic to Detroit. We absolutely love it. When we look back at the couple trips we've taken, Jalen Duren at the time would always get brought up like he's just not there yet. He has so much potential. He's just not there yet. My favorite comparison was him against Bam Adebayo when we were at the Pistons Heat game. And we were sitting there going like, okay, Bam is just at a whole nother level than JD, and it's just not close. It really isn't. But now, even last year, he was starting to step it up a little bit more. But then right now, I'm sitting here going like, you know what? He's on a whole nother level than Bam Adebayo is right now. It doesn't even matter who the player is, who the big he's guarding. He's on a whole nother level that can either match up with or just completely obliterate whoever he's going up against. And you look at that Eastern Conference, there's not 1-5 that I'm looking at scared against Jalen Duren. Not even Karl Anthony Towns, because he is just so soft. He really is. Yeah. He's not scary or intimidating. The only thing that's intimidating about his game is the fact that he doesn't even have to jump to shoot. Like, that's just intimidating. Like, all he has to do is just catch it. He's just throwing it up, and he's hitting it every single time. That's intimidating to me, because the fact that you don't have to do the basic fundamentals of a jump shot, and yet you're still hitting it, that's a little intimidating. But outside of that, you look at that Eastern Conference, it's wide open. JD can go to work. He doesn't have to worry about a thing. And then even go to the Western Conference, the 5 that he really only has to worry about is Jokic. Outside of that, I'm not seeing a 5 out there that's like, okay, watch out. I mean, Alperen Sengun is obviously great, but like, he's not the star in Houston anymore. So there's just not a lot of guys where I'm like, okay, JD, you have no shot up against. Now we're at the point where it's like, it doesn't matter who or like who's guarding him, 5, 4, whatever, JD all the way.
Yeah. And the team that has done the best against Jalen Duren is I would say maybe the Milwaukee Bucks, just because they have so many big men that they can put basically 2 7-footers in there at the same time and be battling, the bodies against JD. They can just kind of win numbers like that. But other than that, and even the Milwaukee Bucks, he still has kind of done whatever he wants, but I've seen them do the best against him. And I completely agree. Even last season when we went to Detroit to watch the Memphis Grizzlies, and Jalen Duren actually sat out of that game, and a bum like Zach Edey just absolutely ate up the boards, and it was just like evident that we need Jalen Duren. His presence is needed, and when he is absent, it hurts the Pistons. And I've been just so happy the way he's progressed and his play so far this season. That will do it for episode number 28 of season 3. Make sure to like and subscribe. And as from Pistons fans to more Pistons fans that are watching this, enjoy every game. Enjoy this process. Enjoy sharing the W's on your stories after the Pistons win every night. Enjoy this process. And we will see you guys next week to talk about some more positives with the Pistons. Peace.